Hello, hello. All my YouTube peeps, what is going on? Let me pull this up real quick. How's everybody doing? It's Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. We're live on the interwebs. Hopefully. What's up, Mark? I see you in there. How have things been, sir? Good, I hope. Just get all this squared away here. Just pulling up my stream here, making sure everything's working all right. Yeah, it looks like we're good. Hopefully we're good. Man. Yeah, so what's up, Hustle Man? Hustle Man, I like that name. Scott is in the house. Dang. I'm pulling up my internet here. Is this weird? All right. There we go. I'd like to make sure this is on and good. Yep. Okay, we're good. Linda, how are you, Swamp Picker? What is going on? I'm going to share some stuff with you tonight. I got a free Google Sheet for you. It's actually a workbook, and it's going to be in the description of this video. I'm going to go through what it does and maybe how you can use it to help you with your eBay, Amazon, Poshmark, yard selling, state selling, Facebook selling, whatever you're doing, and how you can use it to help you kind of keep track of all your sales and where you source and so on. So hopefully it'll be helpful. Like I said, it's totally free. If you want to use it, you can use it. If not, that's okay too. It won't hurt my feelings, not a bit. And this is going to be a good companion video. So I did a video recently called Retail Arbitrage Made Easy with Google Maps. This video fits right in with that video. They basically complement each other because you can use the maps, you can use the locations you find on the maps to pull up this sort of info. So I'm going to, let me pull this over here so I can see this a little better. I'm going to add something here. All right, let's see, share a screen. What am I sharing? That's not what I want. Chrome tab. I want the free one. Okay. So I guess I got it open in two places. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to try to delete one of these. Okay. That's the right one. All right. So this is a free Google sourcing workbook. And for those of you who, I got to look at the right camera. For those of you who use spreadsheets, this should be really simple to use. Even if you don't use spreadsheets, this is not hard. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. You can always rewind this and watch it later if you want, if you missed something, or leave me a question in the chat. But it's really, really simple. If you don't have a Google account, you're going to need to go to google.com and get one. They are free. That will entitle you to get things like Gmail, for instance. Enable you to have access to Google Sheets, the Google the Google Pages, whatever the one is for the word processor, basically. I can't think of the name of it right now. Somebody in the chat can put it. But Google Sheets I use all the time. And the great thing about Google Sheets is you can log on to it. You log in your Google account or just stay logged in your Google account. You log into that from anywhere in the world. You can access this sheet. You can access this on the fly when you're outsourcing and doing your thing. So I find it extremely useful. You can share it with other people. I shared a copy of this in the description of this video. All you need to do to use this is get your free Google account if you don't already have one. And if you do, just click on the link. You'll be able to go to this. You'll be able to go in and copy this entire workbook copy it into your drive. And that's really easy to do. If you go up here to the File tab, you'll see that there's a Make a Copy option. You'll click that, and it'll make a copy. You can put it right in your drive, and then you can format your own. So you can delete all my stuff that you have in it, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to go through this real quick, show you guys how it works, and I'm going to show you what it looks like live in my own sheets, my own sourcing, and so on. There's 5 tabs down at the bottom: journal, store list, metrics, inventory supplier, and run sheet. We're going to start with the store list. The store list has several columns you can see here. The only columns that you really need to worry about are columns A and columns B. Column A is where you put in the store that you want to go to. Maybe you like sourcing Walmarts. So if you remember our Google Maps video, maybe you look up all the Walmarts in your area that you might want to source in, and you'll put them in here. You'll just put the store name here, and you'll also put the address of that specific store here. All these columns over here will calculate. So you don't really need to do anything to those. They're just informational for you to use or not. Really simple. Secondly is the journal. So the journal is where you're going to put in there when you go to a specific store. So let's say that we've decided to go to this particular Walmart right here actually, let's use this one right here. This is one of the ones here in Charlotte, and I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to paste it right here, and I'm going to paste, let's say we went there today. And let's say we bought 17 units and spent $185, right? If we go back over to the store list, we will now see that there's one visit. It was a successful visit because we got something. So it's 100% success rate so far at this store. We spent $185 and we bought 17 units. Now, let's say that we go back to that store a week later, just to show you what will change. And let's say that we get nothing, right? So what will happen with that is you will see now we've gone 2 visits and we've only had 1 successful trip. So 50% of the time we don't get anything, which means on average we spend $92.50 in that store. Why? Because $185 divided by 2 trips. And on average we get 9 units now, not 17, because it took the 17 and divided it into 2. That's basically how it works. I have no idea why that says 9 right there. I'm really confused why that says that. H7 divided by C7 should be not 9. Turns out Google's not doing great math. Okay, that's interesting. Not really sure why that's coming up with a different number. Somebody else, I guess it's just rounding up to 8.5 to 9. And you could change this too if you want to be a little more specific. You can add the number of decimals you want. So there you go. All right. That's how the journal and the store list works. So, all right. How does this work in reality? Let's say you put together a run sheet of these stores that you want to go to. Now, the run sheet is like a way for you to figure out what your day is going to look like, or maybe it's a couple days or a week or whatever time frame you're going to source. So the run sheet gives you a way to kind of organize your next run of stores. And you can do this any way you want. You can print this out if you want. You can keep it with you. But this allows you to go in and kind of create your stops that you want to go to. And it allows you to track your total units, your total spend. And then it does something here called projected spend. And what that means is it's taking basically that particular type of store, and it's looking it up and saying, all right, if you go there on average, how much are you going to spend at that store? So if we go back over here to Brighton Town Center, we see that, well, Walmart in general, we tend to spend excuse me, I went too far. Let me go back to the run sheet. And Walmart generally tend to spend $112.79. So you're likely to spend that much at Brighton. Now, Brighton maybe not be quite as good because you've gone there a couple times now, and so it's started to go down. But this just kind of gives you a quick guess about what you might spend on your trip. Could be high, could be low. And as you go to more and more stores and you go to more of a particular type of chain, this will get better and better. And that reminds me, your store list, by the way, these could be like, this could be like a specific type of thrift store you went to. It could be the name of the thrift store. You could put that in something separate. However you want to organize this over here, it doesn't matter. But what's important is that once you do create a new type of store in this store list, like say we had Dunder Mifflin here, Then over here on the metrics tab, we're going to make sure we put an entry in there for that, because then this page over here will start tracking what happens at that particular store. So you'll see here, this is keeping track of all the stores we've been to. Like you see here with Walmart now, we've gone to Walmart, that store chain, 6 times. We've been successful 5 times. Excuse me, we've gone to 5 stores. We've been successful 4 out of 6 times. 6 trips, 5 different stores, which means basically 2/3 of the time we found something. We spent a total of $667, which is an average of $112.79. We saw that on the other sheet. And we bought 63 units for an average of 10.5 per store. So that gives you a quick, easy way to see how much you're getting in a particular chain of stores, a particular type of thrifting maybe you're doing. Maybe you're like, all right, I want to lump all the Goodwills and Salvation Armies and what's the other one? St. Vincent. And there's probably some other ones I'm missing, the big chains. Maybe I want to lump all those together as like national and regional thrift stores. And then maybe you want to have a mom and pop thrift store category. Or maybe you want to make each store its own thing. Totally up to you, however you want to set it up. Just remember that whatever you create over here in the store, if you create a brand new type of store, a brand new entry here, if you put, store A, B, C, D here, you're going to need to at least go over here and create an A, B, C, D, so it will start tracking your results for that store. All right. Very, very simple. And if you don't want to track it, you don't have to put it over here. Totally up to you. It's not going to break anything. So this allows you to, we'll get into this profit here in a moment, where that's coming from. So that's the journal, that's the store list, that's a little bit about the metrics, and that's the run sheet. The last thing that I did with this workbook is the inventory supplier data. Now, this data can come from a lot of different places. Maybe you're using SKUs in your SKUs, you're putting the store or where you got it from, like if you're selling on an e-commerce platform. Maybe you're using a program like Inventory Lab, which allows you to pull down suppliers. I use Inventory Lab, and I find it really, really useful. So, but it's a subscription cost. eBay allows you to pull down sales reports, and you can, if you've got suppliers in your SKUs or you've got it somewhere else that you can pull up the information, you can put that here and say, okay, I just put in some sample data here. At Walmart, I've sold 192 units over whatever period of time you want to track. Doesn't matter. It could be the last 3 months, it could be the last 6 months, it could be a year, it could be all time. I've sold 192 units, and this is from Inventory Lab. You can tell units refunded. This was merchant fulfill, which I didn't do much of that. It's been $3,100, $3,193 of revenue, which for this period was 2.27% of the revenue, and the profit was this, and the return on investment was $60.07. So now what the sheet will do is, if you go back here to metrics, we'll go to Walmart. I'm going to scroll across here, and it's going to say, all right, your Walmart items have only been averaging $3.91 profit per item. Yikes. I don't know about you guys. That's not great. When you go to Walmart, it's basically worth about $41 in profit. I think that's kind of interesting. And this column right here, this column shows you, I'm going to explain how to explain this. This takes all the Walmarts in this case, because it's for this row, that you have over here in your store list. All right. It takes all of them and says, if you went to all of them one time, one full circuit, then that would be worth $136.70, because it's basically just taken all the Walmarts you have, and it's just multiplying it out times the profit you're likely to get. So, take of that what you want, if that's useful or not. I find it kind of interesting. You certainly don't have to. Use that number. By the way, it's also using the success rate. So if you notice, like the formula for this is C5 times M5. I don't know if you guys can see that right here, but it's basically taking how much the trip value is times the number of stores, but then it's multiplying it by how often you're successful, because you don't get something every time you go to Walmart, right? You only get stuff 2/3 of the time, according to the data we have in here. And so that's why it's figuring that. I like to kind of know, if I went to everywhere that was on my run sheets, on my list, that I could go, how much money it would put in my pocket. You could break that down different ways. If you had here, like say Walmart's in the northern section, whatever you call the northern section near you, or maybe your county, maybe half of your state, whatever, you could break it out different ways and say, all right, well, if I went to all these, what would that be worth? This will tell you. It says quick down and dirty calculation. You can say, all right, so I got 50 Walmarts that are within, I don't know, 4 hours drive of me. So what would that be worth? Well, 50 times my average trip value times my success rate will give me my max trips. So quick, easy way to figure out how much it's worth if you kind of hit everything at least once, given your success rates. But probably the real key here is, what is the trip worth? So like, I like this particular column because this tells me every time I walk into, say, a Goodwill, it's worth $53.66 on average. Now, I know some of you might say, well, I go to Goodwill and find nothing sometimes. That's in here because the success rate is part of this, remember? Or you say, I find a lot at the Goodwills I go to. Great, that will be in here too. As long as you're accurately tracking when you go and what you get, or if you get nothing, that's important. It's going to give you, the more and more data you put into it, the better and better data you're going to get out of it, right? So if you go to one Goodwill, it's not really going to be that helpful to tell you how often or what Goodwill is worth to you. If you go to 50 Goodwills, it's going to start to tell you something. So use that if you want to kind of figure out your sourcing runs. I could think it's kind of interesting. I think the profit per item is interesting too, especially if you're trying to scale your business and you know, all right, well, I want to put $1,000 in my pocket this month, and Walmart's worth $4 per item, and I'm getting 10 and a half items per trip. So I need to go to enough Walmarts, you know, to pick up enough of that profit to get to $1,000. Well, how many is that? And then you can start figuring out how many that is, and you can go to them and see how, and your mileage is going to vary, right? It's not going to be dead on the number, but it's an average. All right. Any questions about that in the chat? And if you have questions later after this video is over, that's fine. We can look at that too. I'm going to share with you some actual numbers and results to show you what this all looks like. I am not going to show you the stores that I actually have gone to because I don't need y'all all getting up in my stores. But it is my actual data over the last, I don't know, whatever. Basically back in last year, last year I was working a lot at Amazon. So, you know, I didn't source as much as I wanted. So there's long periods of time I didn't source much, but let me share this other screen here. And I'm going to stop this one. And I think I have to share this one. I'm going to share this one. Okay. So this is my actual book over all of 2020. So let's start with the store list. So I have hidden the column of the actual store names. Sorry. Just the way it goes. But these are my actual trips that I've gone to over the last several months since I started this sheet. And you can see, like, I've got my total trips. A few stores I've gone to twice. Success. So, you know, some stores have gotten nothing. How many units, average units. I like to see it out beside the store. You know, you don't have to use those columns if you don't want. You can hide any column very easily. So that's some of the ones that I've basically gone to over the last several months. You can see there's, I don't know. I've got a bunch of stores I still want to go to this year. And I've got to kind of plan those trips out, but that's going to take a little extra time. All right. So what did that look like in terms of the journal? All right. Well, here's a journal. I've got some dates here that aren't really in order, but it doesn't matter. It all still adds up. You can see it's something like this store right here. I got 14 units and spent $203. Then the next store I went to only got 1 unit and spent $535. Them's the breaks, right? I don't know if that was the same store or that was a different chain. Here you can see I had 20 units I bought for $377.62 and so on down the list. I've been buying more R8 items as of late. This is all back in April, so there wasn't too much back then. May, and then June, you can see here, I've really been stepping it up in June. I'm really trying to spend a lot more money and really go after RA in a big way. You know, so I've spent about, let's see, what have I spent since the beginning of June? Well, since the beginning of June, I've spent about $2,400. Actually, I think it's more than that, but no, that might be right. That's probably right. Beginning of June, yeah. And May I spent, I don't know what I spent. What the hell did I spent quite a bit in May actually. I spent $4,400. So I've spent about $6,800 over the last 2 months, really trying to ramp up my RA game. And the run sheet, you can see here, this is a sample run sheet that I was doing. You can see what my projected spend was. This was based on the stores that I like to source. I'm only sourcing about 5 stores right now on a regular basis. When I look at my supplier list, I'm going to show you my supplier data from Inventory Lab. I have a lot of different stores. You can see here I have about 80 stores and types of sourcing over the last couple years or so that I've used, and some have been better than others. I've only got about 600 items on hand right now. Not a lot, and I'm actually paring that down because there's a good 200 or 300 of those are books, and I'm actually about 200, and I'm starting to pare some of those down that have been there for a while because I'm really focused on RA. You can see here at the top, this was probably books, 3,000 units sold, about $43,000. It's decent, but not great. So $15,000 profit. There's your book profit. So what is that? About almost $5 a book, something like that over this time frame. I don't really know what this 1900 is right here. Not sure. Might have been books as well. Just categorized a different way. All right. So let's look at, we looked at the store list. Let's look at the metrics. All right. So this is my actual, remember I told you I was only focused on 5 stores, and they are store A, B, C, D, and E. That is obviously not their real names, but there's about 410 of those stores that I've identified over. Most of them are in the Carolinas, which is where I live, but some of them are in other states too that I would like to go hit. There's still more I need to put on here. There's a couple of these chains that have stores in some other states too. I just haven't fleshed out my entire map and list yet, but I've got at least 410 of them listed. I think I want to say this chain right here is going to, it's probably got at least 3 times that many stores around me. So it's got a much larger footprint. I just haven't put all the stores in. This store probably has at least 3 times around me as well. And this one's not quite as big, a little bit smaller. So you can see some of the trips I've gone on. I've gone on 90 trips to these stores. I've been successful 66% of the time. I found at least one item. So there's your success rate. I don't have a success rate for this particular store because I don't have the ones I went to when I was sourcing this store like over a year ago, but I do want to source it now. So its numbers aren't really correct. So you probably shouldn't even look at those too much because I don't really have a lot of good data on them, but the other 4 are good. I feel real confident about them. This is my total spends so far. This is my average spend. You can see this store I'm spending really, really well. I'm really happy with this store chain. It was not one I would have thought would have been that great, but it's been consistently pretty strong across the board. Every time I go, even ones I've gone back to a second time now, I'm still finding quite a few units. My average cost per unit. So this particular column is, I would like to see how much it's costing me per unit when I go there. This one's a bit higher, but these 3, and this one's a bit higher, but these 2 are pretty close. Total units I've bought since I started tracking these, the average units per buy. And again, gang, all this stuff is like, it just automatically calculates from the sheet. You don't have to calculate any of this. And as we go across, all right, we got profit per item. This store, $775 per item. This store, the one that I'm so high on right now, $1087. I think that's a great profit per item. If I can keep that number, I'm super happy. Like if I can walk in that store and pull out 23 items at $1087, which is worth which right now is worth $249. I haven't struck out in that store yet. I've been to, how many have I been to? I've been to 17 of them out of 110. So, pretty good track record. But yeah, if I can keep pulling that kind of number out of them, that's a great number. Like, that's really strong. I know, like, hey, I'm going here consistently and the trip is worth $250. Every time I walk in the store, it's worth $250. So these other ones, not quite as good, but, still not bad. I mean, this particular store, there's a lot of this store around, and this one. So it's just a quick, easy 50 to 60 some dollars every time I walk in one of those. But I'm not as successful at those. Sometimes I go in and strike out in those because they have more seasonal items probably than store B, would be my guess. Over here is some data that I actually pulled in. This is as of the 14th. I don't remember when it started from. It might have been historical, actually, because I haven't, I've mainly sold books on Amazon. So a lot of these stores in RA, I've just really started getting into this year. You can see the units I've actually sold from these. I've still got a lot. I've got a lot of units still out there. Like this store, I've sold 390 or sourced 390. I've only sold 49. So, long way to go. But this is the actual revenue I've gotten. And then this is the actual profit that I've made off of those particular store chains. And this is the average selling price, which again is super helpful because if you want to scale your business and if you're trying to make a $10,000 a month business and you want to sell $10 items, that's a lot of items to sell. That's 1,000 items a month. Doable, but that means you're going to have to source more than 1,000 to build up your inventory. And then you're going to have to keep it consistently at 1,000. Whereas on the other hand, if you're selling $30 items, you only have to get about 330 items to get to 10,333. Much more doable than getting 1,000 every month. So that's important to know, like your ASP, how much of it is profit, and so on. My average ASP right now for these 5 stores is $28.94. I want to get that up in the 30s. I think I will get there. I think it's been artificially pushed down a little bit because I was sourcing a little differently when I started with some of these. So I'm looking for that to grow. The net profit percentage, for those of you who don't know, this is what you get when you take your selling price, your selling revenue, you minus your cost of goods, and then you minus your operating expense to sell it, which is things like Amazon's fees, for instance. That would be operating expense. You could argue, too, that you would want to put in your operating expense of the business, but I don't really have that number right here in this particular sheet. So these numbers technically would be even lower than this, but for our practice, it's a pretty good number. And then over here, finally, is your return on investment. So I know that, like, for this chain, every $100 I spend, I'm going to get back $70 in return. And then out of that comes my operating expenses. So that's good. That's a really good number. This overall 64.88 is super strong. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that number. And, it allow you to figure out how to scale your business. If you want to say, all right, I can spend $2,000 a month on my eBay inventory and my return on investment is 65%. So that's $1,300 back you will get in return every month. Now, it'll take a little while to get there because you got to build up to that. But that's what this sheet, my actual numbers here, this is what it looks like. This was a sourcing where I was going to go in. I was like, oh, what's my projected spend? I was like, oh, crap, $4,100. I'm trying to spend about $5,000 a month right now is kind of my goal. And I think I'm at that for this. May and June were a little weird because I started kind of in the middle of May, so it's a weird timing. But I'm basically there, and because I know that like $5,000 a month, or at least I'm pretty sure, should return 64% of that, which is about $3,200 if my math is right, back in return on investment. So and my net profit on that, it would probably be around about 29 or something like that, maybe. Have to figure it out. It depends on how much your total sales is. But that's what this sheet looks like in, shall we say, when you're using it full on. So feel free to copy it. Feel free to make a copy in your Google Drive. Use it with the Google Maps video that I made a week or so ago, and you can use that to fill out your run sheet. And then you can just take that and you see too, like the run sheet you can have different run sheets. You can say, this is my run sheet for June, this is for July. This is my run sheet for Walmart's. This is my run sheet for, Food Lion, whatever the heck you're sourcing for, Goodwill. And there's no limit to what you can use that for. I find it helpful. I don't know about all you watching and all you're going to watch afterwards. I find it helpful to know my numbers and at least know them to the point that I know, like, if I do this, I'm likely to get this result, instead of, well, if I do this, maybe I'll get this result, but I don't know. If you're tracking your results, if you're tracking your sourcing, if you're tracking your sales, if you're tracking where you're going and where you're not going, you'll be able to tell, gang. You'll be able to say, like, all right, I know if I go hit 30 stores this month of these 5 store chains, it's likely to return this. And it just makes your life a lot simpler. It's just like taking a map with you on a trip. Well, now, if you don't take a map on a trip, you're not likely to ever get where you're going. It's just sheer luck. If you just walk out the door and just walk in a random direction and hopefully hit whatever it is you're looking for, it's not likely to happen. So this kind of gives you a tool to do that. If you're not already doing that, and maybe you are doing that some other way, if you are, I'd love to hear what it is. Like, if you have, and you can even put in the chat now if you're listening, if you already have a way that you're tracking your sales or your sourcing, how successful you are with specific types, I'd love to hear it, because I have, over the years, come up with a whole lot of different ways. And I haven't come up with a whole lot of different ways. I thought about it a whole lot of different ways, because I thought, well, what kind of makes sense here? Because I think a lot of people who sell online, and I've been guilty of it, they kind of wing it. And there's nothing wrong with winging it, especially if it's sort of a hobby and just fun money. But, it's kind of like when I was learning to play poker. I probably could have, for money, just went in and played any 2 cards in any situation, in any hand, for any amount of money. But if you do that in poker for any length of time, you will notice something. You will lose. You will lose a lot. You might win here and there, and you might get lucky once or twice, but over time you will get crushed doing that. It's a terrible strategy. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody. I don't care who you are. Because if other people are playing consistently better hands than you, even though your hand can catch up and win, in the long run, your hand gets beat. So every time you put money in the pot when you're a dog, when you're not the favorite, you cost yourself money. Even if you win the hand, it doesn't matter. In the long run, you still will cost yourself money doing that. So when you go out and you source and you don't have a plan other than just, I'm going to go scan a store. Okay, well, or I'm going to buy from in this category. I'm going to go buy in this category over here because I saw a YouTuber say it was good. Somebody told me about it. One time I bought one of these widgets and it sold for $68. But the other 19 times you never even sold them. So maybe you're actually down. If you spent $5 a pop, you're actually probably down. That's a terrible way to source, I think. I think it doesn't, when we were doing only jeans, I got very focused on what brands sold, what sizes, what fits, what washes, and which ones didn't. Because it was really important to know the ones that didn't. And Kaaren will tell you, and I saw her here in the chat a minute ago, hello, that there were so many times that she would pick up a pair or I would pick up a pair and show the other person. And it's like, all right, well, what do the comps say? And the comps said didn't sold. But look, it's so pretty. All right, but it's not selling. So even though it looks great, it doesn't sell or doesn't sell for very much, doesn't make any money. So you got to put it back unless you just want to lose money repeatedly. So I just think, even if this is a hobby for you, take a little bit of time. and figure out what it is you're doing exactly, what your strategy is, instead of just winging it, just, putting the blindfold on and throwing darts at the wall and hoping you hit something. I think that's important to give yourself a good chance to succeed. So I'm curious how everybody's doing sales-wise and so on. I know Prime Day was yesterday for Amazon sellers that are watching. All you eBayers out there, I have sold a couple things on eBay lately. And I have now twice in a row, this is moving off the original topic of the video, but I've now twice in a row gone out of town and sold something literally as I was driving. I was halfway out of town and couldn't hit my 2-day shipping time because I forgot, put the store on vacation for a couple days because I thought, I've only got like 15, 20 things listed. What are the chances they'll even sell? They did. So that's happened to me twice now. And so I've been late on both of those. So I'm sure my metrics will probably drop on eBay. I'm only an above average seller at best anyway. But I had totally forgotten about that because you get so used to selling on Amazon, like you don't have to worry about that. Your store's never on vacation. You're just selling. Not the same with eBay. I will say, though, that I've gotten a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but I have got several of the, let me see. Yeah, several of these. You know this name if you're an Amazon seller, right? Good old Voorhees. So Voorhees is, well, they're the company that if you're not an Amazon seller, you don't know this, but they're the company that basically tells you to quit selling other people's crap so that because they don't want you selling their brands and they threaten to sue you and go after you and take your firstborn and steal your pets. And I don't know what all they want to do. It's really ridiculous. These brands, I'm so over them. I've gotten at least probably 3 of those in the last 6 months, just different brands. That was the second group I got on that particular item. So I did go ahead, finally remove it. I was hoping I could sell it and be done with it. Wasn't going to sell for a lot anyway, and maybe that's just part of the game when you're an Amazon seller. You have to deal with these legal firms coming after you. They're not really coming after you. They usually just send you a couple letters. They overnight it. I'm not even sure why they go to all that expense. Kind of dumb, but they overnight it a lot of times or send it FedEx just so they'll impress you, I guess, and try to scare you off from selling their brand, which is funny because I had this idea today. And if you're an Amazon seller, I'd love to know if you've had the same idea. I thought about starting this Facebook group, and it would be something, I would call it something like the IP boycott group, or I don't know, brand boycotts. And what we would do is we would come in and we would share stories of brands that have used Voorhees and these other law firms to scare sellers away from selling their products and promise to never, ever buy those brands' products. And let those brands know that we exist and say, our numbers are growing. And we've all promised none of us are buying your brands until you quit using these law firms to scare sellers on Amazon. I don't know if it will work or not. I guess it's the power of the people a little bit there, right? But I thought about doing it today just to have some fun. Maybe get these brands to get down off their high horse a little bit and quit sending law firms after mom and pop Amazon sellers, which is just ridiculous in my brain. But I don't know if that'll be the case. I don't know if that would do any good or not. It sounds like fun to me. I'm all about starting a little trouble now and then. It's kind of what I do. But yeah, I've been getting those lately. It's kind of annoying. I also thought about plaster them all over a wall, making like a whole collage of them, which would be kind of funny. But whatever. So I think it was climbing shoes for that particular one. I had two different listings, 2 ASINs up, 2 different sizes. And the funny thing was now the shoe wasn't really profitable anymore anyway. I don't think I can even sell on eBay for profit. I really overpaid when I bought it. It's probably not a good buy. So I'm going to take a hit on that one way or another. But, you live and learn. And that's not the first item I've had to, or the brand I've had to quit selling. I usually pull the listing down. I usually have the item shipped back here. I try to sell on eBay, and then I just delete the listing. for those of you who are out there, if you haven't had to deal with this. That way, because if the listing is still sitting there, it's possible they might see that you once sold it and just cause you grief again in the future. So I think it's better to close a listing, have the item shipped back to you if it's worth selling somewhere else, and then delete the listing out of your inventory. So that way you don't have to, there's no chance like they'll see your name attached to it again. I've heard stories about that. I don't know if it's true or not, but these law firms are really a pain in the ass. So maybe I will start that group. Scott says it's a good idea. Scott, it'll just be you and me. We'll just start, we'll just start naming them. It's going to be tough though, because there might be names like, there's names in there that people wouldn't want to boycott. Like Kong for dog treats and dog toys. They are super aggressive from what I understand. If you try to sell their items on Amazon, Kong, K-O-N-G, and they really go after sellers. They threaten to sue, and they have sued, which is just, it's crazy to me. I don't know why these brands really care to this extent, but they do. So I just think that like something has to be done. Amazon is not listing, or I won't say they're not listing. They're just not able, they're not capable of policing this the way it needs to be policed, because there are some people out there selling counterfeit products. That does happen. Brands aren't always wrong. But the fact that they, like, if I read you this letter, and maybe I'll do a separate video on it, if I read you this letter, I mean, it just says ridiculous things. First of all, you have a constitutional right, according to the Supreme Court, to sell something so that you've bought that's a legitimate, original, a true product. Now, if it's a counterfeit product, you do not have a right to sell that. But you have the right to do that. It's called the first sale doctrine. Now, Amazon is an e-commerce platform, and they can make up their own rules depending on what brands can be sold there or not. But this is the brands going after people. And they're basically saying things like, you're not an authorized seller of this brand. Oh, I don't have to be. I can sell this. I can sell this at a yard sale. I can sell it on Facebook Marketplace. I can sell on Amazon. It's the first sale doctrine tells me I can. And then I'm using their trademark and logo. No, I'm not. I'm just selling this item. I'm not saying that that's my trademark. I'm not using it to advertise. And then they'll say things like, you can't give the warranties that the manufacturer guarantees to the to the buyers of their products. I don't have to. I'm not required to. It's so funny. They say things like, you're not authorized. You need to follow the authorized seller agreement. But they know I'm not an authorized seller. So I'm like, I don't have to follow any damn agreement because I never agreed to anything. We don't have any contract. I don't have a contract with those Black Diamond climbing shoes. I don't have any contract with them, nor do I want one, nor will I ever use their shoes at this point, even if I ever did climb. So it's really strange. Looks like you got an IP from the electric company. Yeah, I know, right? No, Voorhees is a law firm that handles a lot of these, and they just plaster sellers with these. Some sellers just ignore them and say, fine, come and get me. But, the problem is sometimes I had one the other day that said, it was a different brand. They said, hey, where are you getting such and such in Charlotte? We're just checking up, and we just want to verify that, where you're getting these from. And I'm like, and they hadn't even bought one. They just saw that I was selling them. And I'm like, I don't have any responsibility to tell you where I source my product from. I'm not a publicly traded company. You're not a shareholder. I don't have any fiduciary responsibility to say this is my sourcing numbers and where they come from. Not to you as a brand. Like, I have none. Even if you bought one, I still don't. I just thought that was very presumptuous. I think they just send these messages. They just message me straight through Amazon's system. They send these messages out and say they're just fishing just to see who will say something back. And I just ignored it. I put there was no response needed. I don't know. Maybe they'll come back and ask me again. I don't really care. It's none of their business. I got it from an authorized retailer. I feel 100% confident that it's an authentic product. I guess what I'm saying too is if Amazon goes this way too far, eventually they will push a lot of third-party sellers out. I don't think that's their intent because they rely on them too much right now for too much of the revenue on the platform. But I think they're in this weird position where they're having to deal with counterfeits coming, a lot of them coming from the Far East and places like that, unfortunately. And they're just trying to deal with them. And, a lot of innocent sellers get caught in the crossfire. And the fact now that we have to supply our name and our address and contact info on our store on Amazon is just, it's just baffling. Like now they're just opening us up to these brands to come after us with these law firms with these nuisance claims. And that's what they are. And I just wish somebody had the resources and the legal ability to stand up to them and just say, no, this is not right. Like these sellers are not doing anything wrong. They're not interfering with your business by selling your product on Amazon or anywhere else. But it's really unfortunate. It kind of always leaves a sour taste in my mouth every time. All right. Well, listen, I don't want to go on too much longer. I hope that was helpful for you. Please leave me questions or comments down below the video if you have any about how to use a sheet, or you can reach out to me, send me an email, catch me on Facebook. I'm not that hard to find. And before you leave, please hit the like button. Share this video if you think somebody else is struggling maybe with their sourcing and so on. It's a free workbook. So there's no cost. I'm not asking for any money. I'm just asking you to give a little share and like, love, and so on. And I hope you guys have a good night and go out there and kill it sourcing and whatever business platform you're on. I hope you do awesome. All right, everybody, take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.